Okay. So, welcome to episode 2. Um, I know the first episode is It's All the Same Shit part 1, but this is not It's All the Same Shit part 2. We will do that another time when the inspiration strikes. Um, so the first time I did it going live, and it was horrible experience for me. I was a nervous wreck. Not being able to see faces that are looking at me kind of messed with me. So I'm doing it different this time. I'm doing live in private where no one knows, and then I'll post the video. Um, anyway, so this today, a friend of mine's parents went home from a visit, and my friend had prepared a lot of stuff for the. It was the first time they were going to see her new home. They're in Michigan. She's in Greensboro, North Carolina, and so, she hadn't they hadn't seen her new house that she had bought, and last time they had visited her, she lived in an apartment, in the city and stuff, so, anyway, so she, like, installed a railing on some steps and, like, in the shower and, did some things anticipating their needs, and it was a success. They left today, this morning, and she said it was just the most relaxed trip. um, you know, the parents didn't have any anxieties or any. She just said it was just super chill, and it just all worked out, and that, especially that her mom was very relaxed and all the things. And so, I was just kind of sitting with spirit, and I was thankful, just thinking, oh, I'm just thankful that, Miss Betty had a good time, and and her dad too, and whatever. And so what and the way spirit talks to me a lot of times, it kind of seems like I'm fantasizing about something, and then I'll realize I'm receiving information within that fantasy that's I didn't know. And in the beginning, that was kind of how, and so now that's just sort of how we do things, and I just know that that's the thing. Okay, so I was sitting there in spirit, and so I was fantasizing that me and Jen were having a conversation, and that I was saying, that it's your connection to spirit that helps you anticipate the needs of them or anyone, or, and that's why it was such a success, because of your strong connection to spirit. And in my fantasy, I could see Jen, much like she would say to me in a situation like that, is I've had, 55 years experience with my parents. So that's probably what I know my parents, I know my mom, or, whatever. And in my fantasy, um, all of a sudden I'm seeing downstairs at my dad's house, a house he lived in long ago. There was these shelves, and it had a set of encyclopedias. And what spirit was showing me was those encyclopedias, and that true, Jen has her encyclopedias. They were referring as that as all of the information we have in our brains. And so, of course, yes, Jen has an entire volume of Betty and an entire volume of Dick, her dad, to go on. Of course, she's 55 years old. She knows these people. But what spirit showed me is, yes, that's what makes it easier and makes that connect so much more powerful, or her information is so much more clear and accurate, because spirit doesn't have to work very hard to remind her of certain things, because she has such a vast knowledge of the subject matter at hand, right? So, but yet, like, if Jen's trying to fix something on her own car and doesn't know anything about mechanics, they would have to work a lot harder to get her intuition to sort of be accurate, because she doesn't have information for them to draw on. Right, that makes sense. And so when they're showing me that, I'm like, "Oh, that's pretty profound." Um, and so I immediately, sent Jen a video, because I do this for her, not often, but I've done it quite a few times. Um, And I was just saying, isn't that wild? So it's, yes, it's your knowledge of them, but it's also your spiritual gifts, combo those, partner those up, and now you're just accurate as fuck, right? And uh right. So I sent her that thing and video, and of course she loved the video. And so as I was sitting there processing even that I'd made that video for her, spirit went even deeper. So I'm just checking my notes because I want to make sure not to forget anything. Mhm. Right, so when you grow in a certain like, you never leave the town you live in, you never read the books people told you you shouldn't read, and you never, took the trip to learn about other cultures and other worlds and other races and all. You never did that, and you never intentionally diversified your group, and you only hung out with like-minded people, that you're actually handicapping yourself. So spirit can only reference what things it can reference that you have in here. So if you only reference, this one little thing, this one doctrine, this one thing, I'm never going to try over what like it, then they can only talk to you and speak to you within that limited space, right? And so that's why a lot of people like when they move away, like that grow up in a certain religion or doctrine or whatever. I'm not anti-religion and doctrine, so I want to say that I'm not. But there are some that are very oppressive and keep you in a certain bent state, shrunken state spiritually. Not all, but some. But there's, some people would move away, go get educated, get degrees, go to other countries, and they their minds change on things. Well, it's because spirit can now speak to them through all these other experiences outside of what was given to them as a child or what was told that they were supposed to stay within. Is they spread their wings, right? And they're just like, man, this feels good. And you realize it's bigger than what you were taught, and you're more powerful than what you were taught, and your connection is so much stronger than what you were taught. And so sitting in that, I was just like, that's wild. So it made it so obvious, like, I wasn't allowed to go to someone's house on a Saturday night to go to their church. You're not being introduced to other things or other cultures, uh, yeah, just other cultures, other places, other sites. Because the more books I read and the more classes I take and the more people I meet and the more places I see, the more psychic I feel, and the more because I am, because they're able to reference all these new symbols and new sights and new sounds and new smells and new foods and new people and new ideas and opinions, and they can use all of that to show me movies the way that my gifts work, and that's powerful. If I were even trying to find a psychic, now from this lesson, even if someone had the most powerful gifts, if I would now want their resume. Have you traveled? Have you gone to school? Do you hang out with people that are not just like you, different races, backgrounds, cultures? I would want to know because I know the more they've done, the more they've traveled, the more they've seen, the more mistakes they've made that they've learned from, the more fuck ups, the more experiences, period, that they've had, the more powerful of a psychic that they are. Um, And another thing, moving through, I talked about this in the last episode a little bit, moving through my spiritual journey, the beginning of it was very much, beginning of my adulthood was very much rejecting all the things I was taught that, in the Christian faith, the the branch of Christian faith that I grew up in, but not all Christian faiths are the same. I'm learning. But, I spent all the time trauma responsing it, it would just trigger stuff and I trauma response the crap out of it. But, one of the things, going through this that spirit was showing me is, number one, spirit does not require us to acknowledge spirit for spirit to be there. Just like the ocean doesn't require me to know that the ocean's there or believe that it's there for it to be there. It's still very much there. Much like spirit. Like Einstein was very much plugged into spirit. He didn't know it. He was atheist. But spirit didn't require him to acknowledge them for them to give him all that physics crap. And so he was kind of like an idiot savant spiritually because he thought he was so arrogant. He thought it was all his own brain. That was his connection to spirit. And that was his purpose, was to bring us that knowledge. So spirit didn't really require their acknowledgement for, for him to receive what he was supposed to receive. And the another thing that doesn't line up with the way I was brought up is spirit is absolutely not a jealous God. And people, the God, this God, spirit, my childhood, Uh, pause. They're talking over me, so it's confusing me. Right. Right. They want me to remind, and I made the point in the last episode, that when I say spirit, that I mean God, Holy Spirit, God, whatever the verbiage is that you're comfortable with. It is all the same shit. I mean, if you haven't seen the first episode, please do. It is all the same shit. So when I say spirit, I'm saying God, uh, Holy Spirit. I just, Kimber is short for Kimberly, Spirit short for Holy Spirit. I just don't say both words every time. So that's number one. But that spirit is not jealous. I was taught the sphere based stuff like jealous and wants your constant worship and wants, just everybody just praise all the time. And spirit doesn't require that. Um, like I said, Einstein was very plugged in that one area. Now, had he been plugged in and had he acknowledged spirit and realized that that's part of his spiritual gift and then applied it to other stuff and applied it to the rest of his life, well, then that's where the salvation lies. And that does line up with what I was taught. So you don't have to. And like people that are really good at certain stuff and passionate, and they're just, you know, that's where they're plugged up. That is spirit helping them. If spirit left my body right now, I would just be laying here like a blob. I wouldn't be, it's not the brain that's telling me to swing my arms around right now. It's my higher self. It's me. It's me, right? The brain is just a tool. It's a computer. That's it. It's a computer, no personality. So it's all spirit. We are all spirit, God, Holy Spirit. So, no, it doesn't require our acknowledgement, but that, just like my childhood doctrine said, that is where the salvation lies. That is where our peace lies. That is where our inner peace lies. Because Einstein wasn't a great dude. Maybe if he had plugged in and knew, it was spirit the whole time with everything, he would have been able to heal some of his trauma and, not been such a bad husband or whatever, because I've read some pretty bad stuff, but he did all these great things. But because it was great, because spirit was involved in that aspect, so that's why it was great. So if spirit's involved in other aspects, those will be fucking great too, right? So then your spiritual life will be great. Your marriage would be great. Your relationship with your children will be great. If everybody's lined up with spirit in all of those areas. So the message is spread your wings. Take that trip. Read those books. Meet those friends that don't look like you. Go travel the world, do it, and then tell me about it. And if there's any ideas that y'all want for me to discuss and plug in and meditate on and see what spirit has me say, email me at kimberkeepingitreal.com at gmail.com. Or I don't know if you can leave stuff in the comments, but if you can put stuff there. Or if you would like to have a session or a reading, you can also email me or contact me in some way. So, and as always, I say that and I've only done one other episode. That's funny. As always, if you're not actively and intentionally trying to leave this world better than you found it, you are missing the point. See you next time.